Hello and welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am your host, Trent Clark, serial entrepreneur. I am the CEO of Leadershipity, the author of Leading Wing Teams, and I am a podcaster, of course, with Winners Find a Way and Winning Ways. I speak all over the world. Check out my TEDx talk on the pain exchange. And of course, most people know me because I spent over 13 years in professional baseball coaching in 3 World Series. And today, on the Winners Find a Way show, I've got my man, Jeff Bones Bonner. What's up, buddy?
Let's go. How you doing, Trent? Great to be here.
Good, man. It's go time with Bones, the
Yes.
fighter pilot extraordinaire, current pilot of Southwest Airlines. He is an author and a resident badass. So, I'm super excited about this show because this is the near and dear to my heart, right? We are talking about continuous improvement. And Jeff, man, you've been a long time in this game, man. You, Baltimore, Maryland area guy. You're kind of North Maryland now, up in Parkton. Married, 2 kids, got 2 in college. 1 just finished, off the payroll.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Very exciting.
Very exciting. That was the happiest graduation ever to go to, right?
That is right. That is absolutely right.
Still got 1 down at with the Ramblin' Wreck down in Georgia Tech. I love that. You're a Terrapin yourself, which is awesome. And you wrote the book, The Daily Debrief, a 5-step continuous, a model for continuous improvement. And we're going to talk about that and have a little gift for the folks who are on the show today on how you too can download some information and enter the 30-day challenge with Bones himself. So this is gonna be pretty cool. Tell me, Bones, when did continuous improvement enter your arena? Man, this is something you were 5 years old and darn it, I'm gonna be the best t-ball player ever, or what were you thinking?
Right. No, the idea of continuous improvement and really my path to study how it works with elite teams really came from somewhat of my personal experience in fighter aviation. So I remember, Trent, I was on the flight deck just prior to launching on my very first combat mission. And as I'm strapping in, we're operating off the coast of Kuwait, south in the Northern Arabian Gulf there. And just as I'm strapping in the jet, the plane captain steps down right as he finishes hooking up the ejection seat. And he says, "Good luck, sir. This time it's for real." And I remember thinking to myself in that moment, I've trained my whole life for this very moment that I'm in right now. And then I started asking myself some questions. Well, what if I go out there and make a mistake and drop a bomb on the wrong target and, harm innocent civilians? And what if I get shot down and never see my wife and family again? And all these questions are running through my mind, Trent, and they lead me to the greatest of all, which is, what if I'm not good enough? And that question put me on the path to understand how I kind of get out of that mindset. And because the next combat mission had similar thoughts, the next one had similar thoughts. And really that triggered me to really unpack this idea of, all right, when we're in a place where we know we need to advance and move forward, how do we do that? And how do we develop it continuously? And that, my postgraduate work, but that kind of set me on the path initially. So it really started in the cockpit just prior to that very first combat mission.
Yeah. So you're flying Harriers for the Marines and you start there. You move into some A-10s with the Air Force ultimately.
Correct.
You get out of the military with all this experience. And, the military debrief, of course, is a whole thing, right? That is part of Mission Central, everything that's going on. It's part of the training. In fact, you get trained on how do you do a debrief, right? You're not only to get to one, but trained on how to do one, right?
Absolutely.
So there's all these things going, and you're rolling that right up into postgraduate work at Harvard and developing that of all these things, this culmination of items you've learned through this journey of multiple squadrons, really.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And the idea of the way we approach debriefing in fighter aviation is it is not a nice to have. It's not a good to do when we get around to it. It's not what I typically see with a lot of the teams that I work with. We'll debrief when things kind of went really bad and we need to fix it. That is totally not the way. That's not the culture that fighter aviation uses. We debrief, and sometimes we debrief longer than the mission itself. And the reason we're doing it, Trent, is to drive one concept. Everybody in that room is looking to be better tomorrow. That's all we're trying to do. We're not finger pointing. We're not assigning blame. We're just trying to go through in a way that we unpack what went well so we can repeat it, and what didn't go well so we can improve it. And that's it. That's really what it's all about.
Yeah, I think what you've really separated here in your world, and the military's done very well at this, is that, in athletics, we call the debrief, we call review the tapes, right? We're going to review the tape and go back and see what went well. And what I would say is when we win, there's very little review. Right. When we lose and fail, it's like, oh my gosh, we got to go to the tapes, man. Let's learn all the bad stuff we did, because we feel like we're so well prepared, but we think we're really strong and we were ready for what's about to happen. And I really love this about, when you talk about mission critical and you talk about the prep for the mission, right? I loved, and I talked a little bit about this a couple of weeks ago with the famous coach from UCLA, John Wooden, right? He was like not reviewing tapes on any opponents. All we do is watch the tape on ourselves. We work on our stuff because we don't get to control what they're going to do, but whatever they're going to do, we are going to have an answer and react and be able to. They've got to stop us first, which he did have the best players in the country, at that point, right? Now he's won 9 championships, and it's rolling along here. So he's getting some high quality talent. And so, but this has been his mission from the beginning, is if we're doing everything we're doing well, the opponent doesn't really stand a chance. In theory, that sounds great. And that's how the mission, and we start out and our prep looks good. And then we get into the game, the mission, and turns out it doesn't always go the way it planned, right?
That's right.
Now we're in a debrief. But what I love is that, again, the separation of debrief, good or bad. We're going to debrief exactly how well our preparation worked. When it went very well and everything went on time and everyone's doing their job and doing their role and owning it. And you're like going, man, amazing how well that mission went from preparation to execution. Let's talk about why that happened, right? And I don't think sports are doing enough of that at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's very much because what we're talking about, Trent, is we're talking about building the culture of continuous improvement and using debrief as a tool to get there, right? So we know that the idea here is that we want to be better tomorrow than we are today. And that's a very common, you mentioned athletics there, and certainly the scoreboard gives us some immediate feedback on how we're doing toward that goal. But individually and personally, we're all on that path, whether we're entrepreneurs or whether we're parents or whether we're wherever we are in life, we're all on that path to try and continuously improve to be better. So what we're talking about here is developing a habit of debriefing that is going to drive that continuous improvement. So yeah, that's absolutely to drive that culture. And then the teams that I work with, when everybody individually is developing this habit, what we see is now we're developing the culture of continuous improvement across the organization. And that's where really the magic happens.
Yes. And I'm in this world too. When I see companies, I see most are pretty poor at reviewing the tapes at the debrief. They're it's got to be a really extreme thing that we got to do a debrief or we got to go review the tapes. And by the way, winning or losing. And there's times I talk to organizations, they don't know why they lost and they don't even seem interested in finding out. And I'm like, wait a minute. So you just did 3 RFPs. None of them were considered a finalist. And we're going to execute on the exact same information and lose again on the next one without ever talking about what happened. Yeah. I hope we get it. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
let me give you a little news flash at 11 about what's about to happen, because like there's a really good chance you don't get it, right? Like, and until you meet someone who likes the way you're doing it or understands your methodology or something else, they're not liking it. And they've shown this like time and time again. So tell them real quick, Bones, about how someone can get a hold of you. You're on LinkedIn. Tell them where they can find you.
Yep. So I'm on LinkedIn at Jeff Bones Bonner. That's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. The website, the Debrief Advantage, has all the information about the services, and that's a great way to learn more and can get a hold of me there as well.
Yeah, perfect. And so one of the things, we'll get to this again later in the show, but like I want to share this to you right now, because debriefadvantage.com, debriefadvantage.com/habit. And that will get you into the 5-step method of the debrief. And you can download that framework and take a look at that model. Very good. And enter into the 30-day challenge, which is how you will structure, how you will actually put this to practice. This is a big deal, people. When people offer you a chance to get in and get engaged, this is where you're going to want to take action. This is all of us who go, man, that's a great book. Oh, really? What was in it? Oh, a lot of good stuff. What are you executing out of it? Well, nothing yet, but like we really hope to one day. Like, no. This is your chance. The 30-day challenge is how you get going on execution and learning. And Bones, do you see a lot of folks? What do you think the percentage of people that come in and get your book will actually take advantage of that?
Yeah. So you just commented precisely on what the challenge is with most books, right? Is that we learn and we get the book and we read it for a day or two, and then we take maybe one piece out of it, and then we put it down, and then we're on to the next idea. This book is fundamentally different, and I took a lot of time in developing it to be a habit changing book, right? So what we're trying to get the reader to do is to develop something new in their life that's going to change the way tomorrow is for them. And that is all about the idea of continuous improvement. So it's a simple 5-step, 5-minute model that they practice at the end of the day. We talk in the book about doing it while they're brushing their teeth. And it's, 5 minutes can make a big difference in developing that habit toward continuous improvement.
Yeah. And for me, this is so valued because folks, I talk to a lot of people about, Bones and I get in the car in Baltimore and we're headed over to Dallas, and there's a route. And by us taking 5 minutes every morning, we reset exactly our route and how we're going to go. We don't end up going through Seattle, San Diego, back through Denver. And then, oh man, I wonder why this Dallas trip took us 6 days. Like, yeah, poor route right there. Because if we don't debrief that, we could just keep driving aimlessly, not doing it. So getting that focus is a big deal. The other thing, you and I both speak a lot of college students. Mm-hmm. And, I tell a lot of college students, this is a great exercise for a 22-year-old, 21-year-old to figure out, because I tell a lot of people, whatever you are going for, if you want to be the leader in that when you're 30, write down the 3 most important things that you have to do in order to have impact in your career, in your personal life, whatever it is, each day, and complete. You could do 5, number them 1 through 5, but you've got to complete the top 3 before you go to bed.
Yeah.
And if you'll do that every day before you're 30, you won't have to worry about being a success, because you will execute it if you have any ability to prioritize what's important.
That's I wish you were there when I was an undergraduate, because that is some sage advice right there. Yeah, absolutely.
I should have been over the Terrapins. I should have,
you should have been hanging out at Terpland. So
I wouldn't, because I fear the turtle, Bones.
That's what I'm talking about. Let's go. Indeed. Yeah. Indeed. That's right. But I mean, really, the point of that you're making there is probably one of the biggest unlocks that I have with the teams that I work with as a speaker and working with them. And that is the idea of experience alone doesn't lead to improvement. And that gets to your point about driving around from Dallas, right? Like if we just keep driving, that's not going to get us more effective at driving. It's just going to get us more miles under the car. And so it's the idea of reflecting on the experience that we've had. That's the driver of continuous improvement.
Yeah, and as we've learned that in my experience with continuous improvement, was a young man, Cleveland Indians. We started talking about Kaizen, the Japanese concept of continuous improvement, Japanese baseball, big deal. And of course, this was kind of framed in a movie called Gung Ho, and talking about the auto industry. And of course, the number one manufacturer in the world is Toyota, who believes and has this culture of continuous improvement like none other. They've really dialed it up, figured it out. If you haven't gone out there and researched, besides reading the daily debrief, you're going to want to go find out some information on the Toyota story, because it's no joke on continuous improvement. So how did you, when you talk about, did everyone get this in the military, or was this still fragmented for you?
No, it's very much the culture. It's very much and we started, I had the opportunity to serve as a flight instructor, teaching the next generation of Navy and Marine Corps fighter pilots. And in that role, we drive home to the students that this is what we do in Navy Marine Corps fighter aviation. And we start them very early with understanding we are going, after we're done a sortie, a flight, we're going to go and we're going to debrief it. And we're going to do it in a structured way that isn't about assigning blame and picking out and doing what those that maybe haven't had the opportunity to explore positive ways of debriefing. That's kind of what I see more commonly, right? Because we're not trained to do it. So when we do it, it's when something bad happens and we're just basically assigning blame to what, so it doesn't happen again. That's not the kind of constructive debrief that we're trying to get into our aviators at a very early age. The idea is we're trying to present them with a structured way so that they buy into the culture of landing, so that they can do the high level acts of landing on an aircraft carrier and doing the pressure, high pressure type of performance in a single seat jet that's necessary.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, I feel like so many things come out of the debrief, right?
Sure.
We now identified what in my world, in the Bloom growth world, we call obstacles and opportunities.
Right.
We've now debriefed and identified a bunch of obstacles that are reducing our efficiency, our ability to do this better, our improvement. And also we identify opportunities that create easier ways, better process, all these things that come in. And do you feel like that's probably the difference, like the separator in American military from others?
That's certainly one of the elements that drives that sustained high level of performance. But when I was doing the research to develop the model and develop the habit that would the idea was, how do we get this idea that we know works in fighter aviation? How do we get that so that other folks outside of fighter aviation can use it? And that's really what I spend the majority of my time talking about to other organizations that don't have that culture yet, is how they develop it. And certainly that idea that you're talking about there is an element that defines military aviation, about how that debrief is in there, but it's not unique to aviation. I'm sure on your your World Series teams, and you look at the high performers in athletics, the Michael Jordans, the Michael Phelps, the Tom Brady's, these folks they're all in on continuous improvement. That Michael Jordan, the guy that won the first championship, he was not the same athlete as the guy that won the last championship. Different team, different physical abilities, bodies operating differently. And all three of those individuals that I just talked about are examples of folks that have committed to this idea of continuous improvement, and they do it via a debrief model.
Let's talk about the impact it has on others, because a lot of people don't understand the debrief. They haven't been brought up in that culture.
Right.
And I call confidence, I use the formula for me for confidence is preparation and repetition, prep and reps.
Yep.
So first, people don't know how to do a debrief. So they don't have any preparation on how to do it. And so until they get those reps, and then they go, wow, we are going a lot faster. I'm improving much faster personally because of these daily reviews. And I'm finding out what I can do to be better at my role, be a better husband, be a better father, whatever that is, right? And because they're doing this, and it's often, this isn't every once in a while. This is a habit that's formed. They start getting those reps in and understand the value of it. It's easy to see the level of accountability that creates that continuous improvement. Where do you see that when that first initial, you get people going? Are they deer in the headlights? Are they shell shocked? How do they react first of all to it?
Right. So it's very much to the point of building a habit. We're going to start small, like we do with any habit that we want to develop. And like I said, one of the things, it's a 5 minutes, what we're talking about, 5 minutes. And the way the model is built, we start with gratitude. And that's the first step of the model. And the reason we start with gratitude is because it turns out that high performers have an ego. That's how we get there, right? we are driven, and I'm sure a lot of your audience is in that category, if not most of them, in that the idea is that the way that they've become high achievers is by performing at a very high level. So we start with gratitude, with the idea of grounding ourselves. And the model for that really comes from the Blue Angels, if you're familiar with them. The Navy flight demonstration team, they have a saying on that team that is glad to be here. And that's not just the fighter pilot. That's not just the pilots. That's the whole team. And the idea is that foundation of gratitude, that's what we're going to build excellence on. That we are going to start with the idea of we are glad to be here, no matter what our role is, no matter how it's going. We're glad to be here. And then that's going to be our springboard toward unpacking exactly what happened.
I think that's a big deal for any person out there who wants to be involved and a part of a championship team, and you never have been before. Because everybody looks on the outside and goes, oh, championship teams, I sure like to be a part of that. Well, let me tell you about championship teams. It's hard. Championship teams are not easy. And the ego comes with the fact, like, I'm on the best squadron in this whole military. And you know what? I wear my, my shoulders are a little further back. My chest is out. I walk a little taller. But I also know that what it takes to be here and stay here is not easy. And being a part of that and being part of championship teams usually means you work that much more. And you're going to have to always work to be a part of that. Because if you're not willing to get a little bit better for yourself for tomorrow, to be that better tomorrow, it's hard to stay on that championship team. Is that fair?
That's right. That is absolutely fair. That is absolutely fair. And again, the idea of we're individually on that path toward improvement. And then when we see the whole team adopting that path toward improvement, now we're really starting to develop that championship culture.
Yep. So let's talk about let's talk about some challenges in this market, right? We're trying to build a championship team, and we have the person who's calling it in on the debrief, not engaged, not prepared, not ready, not bringing their best, distracted. And you got 19 people in a debrief room and one who's clearly unengaged and distracted. How do you get that person back in, or are they eliminating themselves by that behavior?
Well, what we're trying to do is get everybody bought into the collective focus of where we're going. And that is why, as soon after we establish gratitude and we're glad to be here, the very next step is reviewing goals. So we're going to get that individual focused on where are we trying to go? What are we trying to do, and how that's going to help them support the team and help them grow individually. And usually what I find is that folks they're motivated by their own goals. And to the extent that organizational goals stack on top of individual goals, right? Individuals are getting what they are needing, and then the organization is providing that for them, and we're growing as a team. That's when we really see some growth. So the idea of reviewing goals as part of this debrief model is a very, very important piece, because it's going to reach that individual that may be a little disconnected. Hey, usually everybody's motivated by their own goals.
Yeah. And if that's in alignment with the mission of the organization or the squadron or the team, that should be pretty good. Like, I'm not sitting here, flying on the A-10 crew and bringing, to the debrief how we didn't yield enough corn in the field this year. Like, this isn't, hey, those goals are not aligned with exactly what we're trying to do here.
That's exactly right.
Our goals are centered in engaging in what's the mission and what's accomplishing. So I love that. Let me ask you a challenging question. Man, I see a lot of folks who have been through high quality training like this, been engaged in this environment a long time, and get back into the public and the public sector, right? Of business or work, and look absolutely lost. Don't get those, don't bring those habits of what they learned back to the role in their new career, in their new deal. And I just feel like, man, I know it's not being forced down your throat, but you know what you need to do. And you could create that environment. You could do that with your team. You could be a part of it. Or even as an individual, you can do it over brushing your teeth, right? As an individual. But I see people, they lose this concept. And is it laziness? Is it, I never liked that anyway. It was hard back then, because this isn't easy, right? Like, let's be fair. It's not easy.
Right.
Where do you think that disconnect happens?
Yeah, I think my research shows that the environment that we in is tremendously influential into the habits that we develop individually, right? And my own personal experience, I can tell you that, serving in the Marine Corps was life-changing for me, because it immediately puts you in a place where we are recognized as being, the status quo is not good enough, right? We're always on that path toward being better. And that's kind of the Marine Corps philosophy. And so I think and I work with a lot of veterans that have this same type of phenomena that you're talking about, is when they leave service, they're kind of lost. They're like, I was part of a team that was doing great big things, but now I'm just kind of struggling on my own. And so that's where I hope to meet those individuals with this habit, because it's essentially saying, hey, look, this is the same thing that you were doing collectively and was part of the culture that you were in on your team. Now you can do this individually, and to your point, build your own team around it, right? Build your own family. Imagine if you went to your family and was like over the dinner table, hey, what did we do for, how are we going to be better tomorrow? What's going on? How class is going, right? This is the kind of thing where we're taking the leadership role and bringing that to ourselves. And it's my hope in life that this habit helps people do that.
Yeah. I think, yeah, Semper Fidelis, man. I mean, I think that I think that there's a lot of Marines who would say exactly what you did. I'm sure this is higher than 99%, right?
Yeah.
Who say this had a significant impact on me. And let's break that down. Let's debrief that for a second.
All right.
Let's talk about that, because the first thing is this is the few, the proud. So that's part of the Marine initiative, right? This is not for everybody. You're going to come here and you will be tested. And so basic training starts a testing that people are finding out, do I have what it takes?
Right.
And that's going to be a push on that pretty hard too, right out of the get, especially for someone who's never had to do hard things.
That's right. That's right.
So let's talk about doing hard things for someone who says, hey, I've never been challenged. I've been life on easy street. And now at 18 years old, I'm jumping into the Marines. What's the odds of success there?
Well, the odds of success depend upon their ability to change, right? So the Marine Corps will test you. It will, because, and this is something that folks that have been through the experience know, that early on there is no right answer. Like, you will go to failure. And if you're not, and if you're a high achiever and you're receiving high, you're meeting the mark, well, the bar is just going to change. The bar will change and change and change and change until you fail. And so the idea is what we're trying to develop, and we were doing the same thing in fighter aviation, developing the next generation, is what we're trying to develop is people who are adverse in failure. They can get to that level of adversity and overcome it by adapting. And it's that idea of adapting. Improvement follows adjustment. So the idea of, if we're going to improve, we're going to have to adjust and try a different way. And so when you see elite teams, whether it be in athletics or in the military, Navy SEALs, fighter aviation, Marine Corps broadly, like, these folks are all about adapting. They're all about adapting. So I would say to that 18-year-old who was living on easy street, you're going to learn to adapt. You will be met with challenges, and you will develop that muscle of improvising, adapting, and overcoming.
Let's talk about this hyper learning that happens from failure.
Yeah.
Right. We learn faster because no one likes failure.
Sure.
And so entrepreneurs, special forces, obviously anyone who's ever been forward in a military zone, now hyper learning is life or death, right? Because if you can't learn quickly and adapt quickly, this may not work out well at all for you, your squadron, your teams, all that stuff. Professional athletes, if you don't learn fast, you don't stay, right? Like, you don't get to stay.
Right.
And so you've got to be able to do that. Now, let's talk about those early years of those people who choose this. Mm-hmm. They had to go through things. They got used to overcoming adversity. They ran into challenges in their life, whether it's alcoholic fathers, missed pregnancies, things that were just hard, abuse, learning disabilities, you name it. They had to step over something, poverty, big one, and realize that, hey, I do have this internal locus of control. I get to have a say over what happens in the future. Like, just because this happened to my mother or father doesn't mean it's going to happen to me. I could make different choices. I can affect outcome by what I choose to react and what I choose to do. And they get that all of a sudden, like, oh, I have some control over this and I can do something about it. For someone who misses that in those teen years, man, it's a hard one to overcome later.
It is. It very much is. And you've seen it in the athletic world, how that background shapes the athlete that they become, right? They don't just leave that behind. That's actually the foundation that they build on. And so for those that may not have had that same level of adversity, I think it's fair to say that we've all had some adversity in our life, and we've all dealt with that adversity. We can either use it in one of two ways, right? We're either going to use it as motivation and the building blocks to be better, or we're going to use it as an obstacle that's going to continue to hold us down. And what I think we find is that elite performers improve more quickly than others because they have that method of reflection and what just happened and how can I use that to improve.
I think that level of discomfort actually becomes comforting because folks get used to the debrief, the discomfort of it didn't all go right. And let's talk about that. And we work that discomfort muscle, and almost to the point where a lot of my friends and I, Bones, you'll appreciate this, get pretty nervous when things are really comfortable. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, man, something bad's about to happen, man. Like we are all way too comfortable. Like this is getting good. And it's like, oh my gosh, life couldn't be better. Everything is just going all the right direction. Like that is not gonna last. That is not gonna last.
Right.
So it's humbling to realize that we do face adversity. But here's one of the challenges I have today is that I feel like life is pretty good, man. I mean, the United States, we've been protected. We've had people like yourself go out there and defend our honor and defend our freedoms. And it's been amazing. And it's been an amazing place because, no one's defecting to Kazakhstan from the United States. No knock on Kazakhstan. All right. But like, no one's doing it. Right. And yet, people will give up their firstborn to get here. Mm-hmm. And when I talk to people inside this, I hear about, this is super challenging in my life. And these challenges are not particularly difficult. Yet I feel like life has been so good here that these minor things now have taken this precedent on this culture that like, I've got a major problem. My car is low on gas. And you're like, wait a minute, that's a major problem? Because every mile and a half, we have little tanks with a station and you just buy it and put more in. Like, this is not going to be a hard solve here. And yet we're still getting into this culture of complaint of like, this is my worst thing I've ever had is I had to drive another 2.5 hours to the next station, or 2.5 minutes to the next station with a box and a little tube that I could put money in and keep moving. And it got solved that quickly and that easily. But this is our major challenge. Like, not really. And I'm trying to figure out this infraction of complaint and the woe is me that's going on that I think is tough to get what you're doing with these folks, to get that new mindset. This is where their mindset is like, I've got a major challenge. My car didn't have a lot of gas this morning, to the daily debrief that says we missed 3 steps in process. And if we do that again and again and again, we won't have clients. You won't have a job. There won't be a building to go to do your work because no one will want you. And that's like a reality that all of a sudden goes, whoa, this sounds a lot worse than the gas thing.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. And are we preparing this young group, this generation for it?
Right. Yeah, that's a great observation and a great question because and it really, usually I don't get into this on podcasts, but because you asked such a great question, the entire daily debrief, that habit, that 5-step habit is actually part of a bigger system called the Debrief Advantage. And that system is built on two principles. And you just articulated very clearly what one of those main principles is, which is perspective precedes performance. And this is something that I studied a lot at Harvard. And the idea is that our performance in any given situation is actually shaped by the perspective that we have about it. And so all the things that you were just talking about of shaping our performance on the job by being frustrated about, I got to go get two and a half more minutes to get gas, and, you know, turn on the news and getting bombarded with the negativity and having passionate views on what's going on that may not be positive in your world. And that basic understanding, that principle of perspective precedes performance, Trent, really drives the question of, okay, well, if perspective precedes performance, what perspective do we want to cultivate to achieve high performance and continuous improvement? And the research that I did determined that there was one perspective that drives elite performance, and that is gratitude. And that's why it's the first step. And so the reason that gratitude is so important is because we know in the human body, we can't hold frustration. We can't hold anger. We can't hold negative emotions that we know decrease our performance and be grateful at the same time. It just doesn't work. There's science around that. So by adopting the idea of gratitude, we kind of show up ready to perform at an elite level.
I love it. And I love that perspective precedes performance, because, you know, one of the things that, you know, a lot of folks have that, like, where you see a young man or a young woman who grows up in a very tough environment of either abuse, food insecurity, you know, a lot of drugs and gang violence and things in that nature. And they're like, football practice. But, you know, I watched my brother OD. I saw my cousin get shot. You know, like, you think I'm worried about football practice? Like, I've got a perspective, and everyone else is going like, man, everyone's big, strong, and tough. I don't know if I'm going to, you know, basic training. I don't know if I can get over the wall. And they're like, the wall? I'm trying to survive on my way to school. The wall's nothing, man. There's a rope next to the wall. How easy is that? So here's, you got one perspective of like, I'll never make that wall, rope or not. And this is like, this is probably the easiest thing I ever did as a 17-year-old. If all I got to do is this today, like, I'll take this all day, and I get 3 meals for that. Are you kidding me? Like, sign me up, baby.
Let's go.
So this is a whole, this is a whole change and a viewpoint that people don't always get. Like, they don't always understand that of what we're ready to dive into. And I really like that. I really like that. I'm gonna put that on my my next wall, man. Perspective, you know, precedes performance. So let's get into that performance side of things, right? When we talk about continuous improvement, you know, a lot of people think, oh, well, that's, you know, performance, you know, we've become this microwave society, you know, Twitter and 144 characters or less. Like, hey, man, I mean, we didn't know how to do that. And tomorrow we need to be the best in the world at it. Like, hey, man, like, I don't know if you know or not, but like, it might take a little longer than that, you know, like, and we're going to go up and we're going to muck it up, and we're going to mess up, and we're going to refine it. And this is going to take time. You know, I always see, you know, people love to hold the championship ring, go, man, the thing's heavy. And I go, yeah, you know, the weight of the ring comes with a lot, right? But it's also the WAIT, right? You don't get to be the lead squadron pilot because yesterday you took an aviation class at uni, and like all of a sudden, like, oh, I'm leading the next drill on, you know, bombing this, you know, village in, you know, north of Kuwait. So like, that's not happening. There's a weight that you have to get trained, developed, all these things. So when we talk about continuous improvement and we talk about reaping the benefit of performance, how do you get that culture shift in saying, this is what it's going to take? And we get those days, those daily debriefs to get us to where we're going.
Yeah. And that really drives the idea of it's a habit, right? You mentioned earlier that it's not something that we're doing occasionally. It's not the model that I teach is called the daily debrief. It's not called the when things go bad debrief or the occasional monthly, yearly debrief. It's the daily debrief. And the idea there is that this is a habit that we're going to internalize. We're going to take a couple minutes out of our day and we're going to look at how things are going in our day. Maybe it's a conversation we had with our spouse. Maybe it's a interaction that for our, athletes listening, maybe it's something that happened in the game or something that's going on in our life. And we're just going to run through a quick 5-step. Hey, let's just figure out how we can be better tomorrow. And if we come from that perspective, then that's going to not one day, not 2 day, but the idea of a habit. If we just get the last step, we talk about taking time for lessons learned. We're just looking for one piece, just one little thing that can make us better. And if we can go through a 24-hour period in our day and pull out just one little area that we can apply to make tomorrow better, we start building 1% on 1% on 1%. We are in a totally different place 365 days from now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think that's, this day for that day, right?
Yes.
The same as, comment I got from Ken Manny. He used to say it strong, a strength coach with Coach Saban. And, this day for that day. So, we talk about people, hey, I'd like to lose some weight. And, if you debrief every day and you're in a 500 calorie deficit, every 7 days, you have a 3,500 calorie deficit and you've lost a pound. So 1 year, if you do your daily debrief and you've accomplished what you've done, you've lost 52 pounds in 1 year, where every week, just by the habit of that. I don't take in more calories than I burn. I'd really like to eat a lot more food. No problem. 10-mile hikes in your future. No problem, man. I can get you a deficit. You just tell me how hard you want to work for it. Man. How good is this cheesecake? So that's what we got to decide, right? Yeah. And so I think that, that's not something that people always understand. And you do this daily now in your civilian life. You are a pilot for Southwest Airlines. So you have a pre-check, you have to go through this, and then you have a debrief after a flight. You have to leave that aircraft better than you found it, that it is prepared for the next pilot, for the next deal. And we have to report, this is what happened in our flight. And if there are issues, clearly reported so that we don't have an issue down the road. So this is something that has been very regulated in your world. Is that fair?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Very much so. And I wouldn't be here talking to you had I not had the culture of aviation backing what I'm talking about in this debrief model. And a lot of what I'm trying to do when I give keynotes and when I talk to organizations and teams is to bridge that gap of this is the aviation world and why commercial aviation is so safe and why fighter aviation can consistently produce results at a very high level in a complex and sometimes chaotic environment. This is the unlock. It's about how we look at what just happened so we can build on it. And then here's how you all can do the same. And that's really what it's all about, is about how we do that. And aviation is, to your point, every single flight that I do as a commercial airline pilot, when we set that parking brake, it's not even 5 minutes in that environment because we're on to the next thing. It's just sometimes just a simply, hey, I could have done this better, right? I didn't recognize that crosswind early enough. Okay, that's it. That's all I need. That's my 1%. That next landing will be better because I'll be ready to recognize the crosswind. Sometimes that's all it takes.
Well, I like that we have a model in our everyday society of that people who don't get to see maybe behind the scenes recognizes you will value that safety.
Yeah,
You're a consumer of that product. Like, listen, I feel very good with Bones as my pilot, as I'm sitting back here in, 13F, like, and knowing I'm going to get there and not, and I mean, from your point of gratitude, right? Like, I mean, think about how that's changed our world, right?
Yeah.
Of how, like, New York to LA in 5 hours, right?
For
Like,
sure.
Again, 100 years ago, this is horse and buggy or whatever, and this is going to be a 17-day jaunt that someone may die, right? This is not this. Our biggest thing now is like, well, we don't have Wi-Fi. Oh my god, this whole flight is trash.
Right.
What? Like, wait, what? Like, you're gonna sit in this seat and get transported, almost like Star Trek. In 5 hours, you're gonna be in a whole new environment,
Yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah,
it's a little gratitude, but we do have these models of this in our lives that are happening around us, and people think this concept is so rare and way out there. It is not.
Yes. Absolutely, it is not. And the real unlock for a lot of folks is the idea that they can use this idea of debriefing, and doesn't really matter. Like, I offer a model to do it, but folks can use anything that they want to, as long as they're pausing at some point in their day to ask themselves what's working and what's not working. Those are the two biggest questions. And the application of that, what you're targeting to, is the real unlock for a lot of folks, because in your world and my world, working with elite performers, what we find is we're talking about this professionally, right? In your world, how do we put together a solid 9 innings of baseball so that we can consistently improve and win? But a lot of times that unlock is how do I apply that idea of continuous improvement to my marriage? How do I apply it to being a better parent? How do I apply it to things that aren't necessarily the professional side of my health? How do I get just a little bit more healthy tomorrow than I am today? And that's where we really see when folks develop this idea of building that habit of continuous improvement, man, we see some dramatic changes in a fairly short period of time, 30 days,
Yeah, I think one of the key things for me in this is that everybody thinks, I think the general concept is, hey, as a team, we need to improve. But the reality is that as we improve as individuals, this is not Bones improved, Trent improved.
Yes.
Like, this has it's not one-to-one. It has a factor of improvement, because now Bones makes 10 other people better for that because of improvement. And so does Trent. And so now we have a factor of 20x on that improvement.
Right.
And so when all the individuals are tracking and performing in that, man, you see the focus go from out here to here. You see people working in alignment. You see them moving in the same direction. And you also see that the things that they used to be inside of that, but now are outside that focused wall, we're not spending any time. We're not spending any effort and energy there, where there's a lot lost in those things that are close to the boat. Like, hey, yeah, it's pretty close. Maybe I'll work on that. Like, no. That's not inside where we need to be working on in our focus. And I think that's game changing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so what you're talking about there is, as the individuals develop this idea of continuous improvement, and then how that spreads to now we got the whole team working on that model. And we teach the idea of you live it, you teach it, and you lead it, right? So the idea is it starts with you as an individual committing to the idea of, I'm going to show up and I'm going to be better tomorrow. And that's what you do. And you can do that at any level in any organization. you're free to do that. And this idea of leadership not being a position, but actions. And so we take responsibility for our own actions, and we say, look, I'm committing to this idea of continuous improvement in my own life. We live it. And then we teach it to other folks. We bring it in to get other folks, hey, here's a quick habit that you can use, or here's an idea that you can help you along your journey. And then as we do that collectively, now we're leading, and it's in the culture. And there are certain ways that, as formal leaders, we can debrief that help us. But that's the idea. We live it, we teach it, we lead it.
Yeah, and I love that. I've told a lot of folks, listen, when you go out, and if I'll know you know it when you can teach it.
That's right.
This is a great way to look at these books. Go pick up Leading Winning Teams. Go pick up the Daily Debrief. Go pick up the book Flourish. Like, if you're going to have an impact on your team, go read this book, and then I'll know you know it when you can teach it. Because when you show it and you model it and you execute it, and then you teach it and lead it, this is going to have the impact in your organization that you're going to want. For everybody, man, super excited about another fabulous episode of Winners Find a Way with my good Jeff Bones Bonner, my man.
Let's go.
Fighter pilot, author, resident badass. I love it. Author of the Daily Debrief. Go pick this up. Check out the Debrief. debriefadvantage.com/habit. Download your free 5-step model of the Daily Debrief, and then enter the 30-day challenge. This is your chance to go in and execute, learn, lead, and then teach others. It's going to be amazing. So, Jeff, thank you so much for being on today, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach. Great to be with you.
Yeah, always good for everybody else. Thank you for joining us on Winners Find a Way every Thursday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, live on our Leadership YouTube channel, my Facebook Live, and my LinkedIn Live. And then, of course, our podcast drops every Friday morning. Like us, subscribe us, share it with others, and go pick up those books. Go get to work. Go do the work, because winners find a way.